ink. Hey artists and art lovers, I'm calling you that now because I feel like that makes more sense than art people. I mean, admittedly, art people is easier to say, but artists and art lovers just sounds more thought out. And, I'm trying to think about this a little bit. So today's good news is really great if you're a penguin lover. Satellites, that's so vague, but the headline says, satellites reveal that there are 20% more emperor penguin colonies in Antarctica than previously thought. So there's lots of penguins, lots, like 20% more is a lot. So I don't really know how many they thought there were before, but more penguins is almost always good, unless you're in like a penguin-centric version of Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds? Is that movie called Birds or The Birds? It's called The Birds, so. Anyway, don't you love how I said I was trying to put more thought into these videos and then that just happened? But today I'm going to add ink to this. Time is right to add ink. And I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently with the shading. So in the last two, I was shading using pencil, and then I was doing like the outlines in ink, in pen. And I don't know, I guess that's like not me anymore. I'm just like not feeling it as much. So with this one, I'm gonna go back to like only ink shading. And I don't know exactly how that's gonna look, because the problem that I have when I do mostly ink shading, like I usually use stipples, and then I feel like there's too much negative space, and then I feel like if I use more stipples it just doesn't look as clean, because that's not my strength right now. So it could end up being a more basic looking thing, or I kind of want to explore with using a lot of stipples and then just see where it goes. So this is definitely going to be an adventure, but I'm going to start easy and just do the lines that I have and worry more about stipple shading or whatever kind of shading I decide to do when I get there. And I mean, I might still incorporate some pencil for the shading, but I just don't want to rely on it like I did for the last ones, because I don't know, I just feel like for like what I have in my head for this drawing, that style doesn't fit. And if that means that like this piece will be a little different from the other two in the series, or if that means like this piece maybe is more of a standalone and doesn't go in, I think that's okay. So it's kind of similar to the other two in that I do want to have lines being like incorporated in the background and also representative of the like opposing negative force. Why did I just quote that? So in the past two, the lines have been tied to words, and those words have been, in addition to like giving a background, they've also been the source of like negativity and like the sort of antagonist in the pictures, and then the subject is working against those, and that is what that's the inner strength that I'm trying to visually celebrate in this series. And this one is a little different. It's kind of almost a reimagining of the first one, where it plays off of that one. So instead of it being words that are like kind of striking the subject, it's more the lines they're not even there yet, but the lines that I'm going to add in are going to be representative of what it feels like when people are like stereotyping you or trying to define you based on just like the way you look. And the reason I want to use lines to show that is because my vision is that it's going to look like it's like pulling away at you. So it's like taking your sense of self away and like imposing something in its place. And So I visualize like it's gonna kind of look like pieces of her kind of like fading, almost like if you have like a sand sculpture and there's wind and you see it like blowing away a little bit, but then like this hand is gonna be blocking that. So it's gonna be like kind of breaking that pattern. Kind of a departure in that it's not following the theme that I had in mind, but it's kind of like an evolution, I guess. It's still that same concept, it's just a little different. And like I have been saying, I'm trying not to impose like limits on the ideas that I have. I'm trying not to force myself to stay in an artistic box just because the idea for the series started one way. It doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Like, no one can tell me that I'm wrong for doing it this way because it's my idea. I just gave myself kind of a pep talk, but yeah, so that's what I'm picturing. Lines will go in last like they always do, but I probably should imply some of that in pencil before I do the pen, actually. So ink goes on hold for like 1 second. And I'm not gonna like fully draw them yet. I'm gonna give myself an idea of where it's happening so I don't like overline it. Oh, let's do one here. Where should another one come from? Maybe right here. And definitely right here. Ooh, definitely like from the shirt. And it's also gonna like fade out at the bottom somehow. And then there's gonna be some here that are like breaking against the hand. Is she a little crooked? No, it's just me. I mean, she's a little crooked, but that's like how she's supposed to look. That's the collarbone. There's the other collarbone. You gotta have some coming from the hair. People have so much to say about hair. And I already have one coming from the eye, so I don't want to do two. People do always have something to say about a nose. I didn't mean to do this, but I feel like it makes sense to pick having these kind of lines of judgment. I feel like that's kind of what they're simulating, and it makes sense to have them dragging at the points of kind of contention and conversation when you're being stereotyped. Like, I'm using myself as a reference, not just as a visual reference, but also as like life experiences, and people always have something to say about me, about like the way my nose looks, the way my lips look, hair, my eyes. And I feel like that's true of a lot of like people of color, and especially Black people, is like, it's just always like, there's always a comment. It's like, really, why? I don't get it. I've really never walked up to someone and been like, oh, your nose doesn't look the way I would expect. What are you? But whatever. Okay. And I might add in some more as I put finishing touches, but I feel like these, the one right here, not that like my delts or triceps are a point of stereotypical contention. Although I will say that people do expect Black people to be like athletic and strong. No one has ever expected that of me though, because I was always like really small. I've only just recently started getting into like being more active, like over the past couple years. But this is kind of a tangent, but people do kind of like assume that it's come easy to me, and I never really occurred to me that it might be because of the color of my skin, but I'm kind of wondering if, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of it. Okay. Okay, now I can start adding the ink. Okay, for real, I'm doing the ink now. Okay, so I feel like I've hit a pretty good stopping point. I didn't add as much ink as I planned to today, but I got a lot of the like structure done, and I got some of the like conceptual lines that I was talking about in there. So I feel good, and this just means that the next video, like the next time I work on this, I can just focus solely on the ink. That'll be fun. One thing I did do differently, which is why I'm stopping kind of right now, is that instead of lining the face, I kind of just want to do the hair and then work on adding those lines in as I'm like drawing in the relation to the hair, instead of having a harsh line and then working around it. So that's kind of why I'm doing a little less than usual, and I'm also, instead of going over all these lines with ink at once, I just want to work on it like in parts. So I'm going to do the face and then I'll move down to the body. So that's the plan, and that'll be what the next video is. So that's the end. Thanks so much for watching. Please just like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.